Hi everyone. In our previous episode, we outlined a project plan where we will automate analytics and BI demand system. In this episode, we will learn how to build a form in Smartsheet, and that will help us creating our standardized format, which will help us to develop a form in a systematic way. So when you go to Smartsheet, what you do is if you select form, and when you are in form, this interface you will see a sheet called untitled sheet, and then you have fields name over here, and then you have form elements where you have the heading / description, divider, and file upload. On the other side, you have the form and then form settings. We will change this to reload the same form for another entry, and we will keep the vertical shape of the form and then go back to the form again. As you see, this is not in the center, so we'll put it into the center and name the sheet as the analytics demand intake form. If you want, you can change the logo over here for your company. If not necessary, you can leave it as it is. The color also can be changed through this button. Since it is a free version, I don't have access to it, but you obviously can change any color that matches your logo and company's vision. The primary column is a column that is situated in the master sheet or in tabular format. It is needed for the index purposes and you cannot delete it. But if you do not want to have it on the form, we will just drag it and put it onto the fields area where you see the first column is the field column. Now on the form field 2, what we will do is we will develop a request ID number. So how we'll do that is let's double click on that, go to here, and then here write it as a request ID number. This field is a auto number / system field. How do we do that? So we go to the field type and we will type in right over here auto number. Click on this auto number and then you get a prefix. So we can call it, since it is analytics demand intake form, so we call it ADI and put an underscore, then numerical places. Assuming if your analytics team is centralized, then you may get a lot of requests. So let's start with the larger number. So ADI and then starting number would be 1. So if you hit OK, then you have added system column to your sheet. It will be filled in automatically when users complete your form. So here's the first confirmation. We have our first column. The second column I would like to add is when you are adding a system, think of who is actually going to use it. So obviously it will be a requester name. So a requester is the person who is going to submit it. So I will say requester name. And this one would be, since we don't know who will submit this request, so we'll leave it empty at this point. But if you want, you can add the drop down list after having some names in it. But since I do not know who will submit it, so we'll keep it as it is and hit OK. So your requester name is added as well. Then the next thing you'd like to know the requested person's email address, because you may want to communicate with that person for more details in it. So you have the requester email address. Again, what we can do is we can add it as a contact list if you have more details, but in the beginning, let's leave it blank as it is. So right here, and we also want to understand or know which department it is coming from and what's their role. It will help us to kind of prioritize in a better way. For example, you receive a request from finance department and the requester is the director of finance. In that case, the triage will be much higher or much serious than if you get a request from some other department. So requester email, we will add department name. Again, you may add the drop down list in here because you don't have a lot of department, but you do not want to restrict the values only, because if someone has the link, they can submit this form. So leave it open. Do not allow multi values in the same cell because it might create problems with the data quality. So for now, let's add finance, then add procurement, then you can add ops team 1, ops team 2, and etc. You may have your own choices. You can add it in here. So if you hit OK, we have created our department name. Now we'd like to add the role and title of that person, so who's submitting it. So we say title and hit OK. So these are primary information we collected on the form, who's submitting or about the submitter. Then we will collect information regarding the request, right? So what we will do is we will add a divider right under title. So what it will do is it will create a separation on the form and it will look slightly better. And we'll also plug the description in this section as well. The idea of it is we are going to name this section as well. So let's call it request definition. Under request definition, what we will say is what kind of business question or decisions that this dashboard will answer or the BI project will answer. Then the requested output, how urgent, what are the deadlines, and then if it is a BI or a data related project, then do they have the available data or data sources, or you need to generate synthetic data. So that kind of details we'll collect from this section. So starting with business questions, so we'll add a business questions, and this question would be extremely important because it is going to be your problem question if you are going to build a dashboard for this request. So I'd recommend is after adding business question, you also make it a mandatory column right away because you do not want to miss any critical information about that project. Then you also want to develop some justification of this request because you want to know how this project will be helpful for the requester. So we can call it decision this will support, and this would be a long text or description column. So what you do is leave it under text and number, and then right over here, since it is a description column, we already know what we will do is we will make it a multi-line text box. So it looks bigger. If you want to make it more bigger, then let's add 5 lines to it. So it will look much bigger than how it is. Then it is also a required column. So we want to hit required in here. Then we will add more columns on requested output type. So if they want a dashboard or they want a Power BI report or Tableau report, or they want a simple pivot table in Excel or some other metrics. So we will select create a field which would say requested output type. And then in here, since we already know what kind of request we might get, we will keep it restrict values only. And in here, you may want 2 separate outputs or 1 output. If it is 1 output, don't select it. So right here, what we will write is data extract. Then we have the ad hoc request as well. Then we have the data extract. Then we could have a dashboard in Smartsheet maybe, dashboard in Power BI, dashboard in Tableau, and finally you may want to see a simple report maybe in a Smartsheet or report in Power BI. We can list them all and then hit OK. Then we'll create another field which is the deadline. Very important, by when do you really want this project. So this has to be a date column. So we'll select a date column and restrict this value to the date only. Then we have the urgency. We'd like to measure how urgent this project is. So we can add a drop-down list to it. We could say high, medium, and low. Then we will also capture strategic initiatives. So if it is not a regular project, so strategic initiative with a drop-down option, we may say yes, no. So you have 2 options for that. Then we are going to collect available data sources. So we say, are there any known data sources available? So we will say yes or no and keep it to restrict values only. And the final value we're going to collect is the attachment. Attachments are very important. If they have a data source available, they want to upload it so you can see it and you can make your plan. So we'll add a file uploader at the very bottom, and you may not always have a file uploader, so we are not going to make it mandatory, but the data sources is a mandatory answer, so we can make it required. But in the case sometimes you may not have any information about the data sources, so you could be unsure, so it is good to add another option to it, is unsure. And then you would like to add the strategic initiative. That can be an optional column. Urgency, this is a required column. I would like to make it mandatory. Then deadline, definitely mandatory. Requested output type, we can make it mandatory, and then we will go up a little bit more and to see about the person's details. So in the beginning we wanted to see who's submitting it and when it is submitted. So we'll say here form date field submitted. We'll say right over here it says system submission date, so we'll go to created date, so we can call it submission date. And you do not want to have it on the form because whenever you're submitting this form, the form will capture today's date. So coming back to the requester name, we will make it mandatory. We want to know where it is coming from, then requester email address, and we will add the validation to this. So instead of no validation, we'll add requester email as the email column. So whenever someone is typing, the system knows how to validate if it is an actual email address versus not. Then we also have the department name, so we will make it required, and then title of that person is also required. Then when we are happy with this particular design, what we will do is we are going to save our form, and what we'll do is we will open form. As you see here, the form we created, it is right here, analytics demand intake form. We have the requester name, requester email, department number, title. Then we have the request definition. Under request definition section, we have the business question, decision. This will support if you want to have the justification, requested output type. Then you'd like to have the deadline, urgency, strategic initiative, known data sources, and finally you have a file uploader where the user will be able to submit the form. So let's try to submit one row so we know how it feels like. Request a name, for example, John Doe. John Doe's email address at perceptron.com. Department name. So this person is working for procurement. So let's hit procurement, and title of this person is. Then we would like to collect more details. Request definition. So business question. What we want to know is which department are driving higher procurement cost and which category. So decision, this will support primarily two decision. One is to freeze or approve procurement request or developing the trend reports. Then we have the requested output type. We'll keep it as Smartsheet request for now. Obviously you can select multiple value in here. You just have to go back and change the settings. Then deadline. Maybe sometimes next week. Urgency, as we can understand, if we have to approve or freeze. So it's pretty high. Strategic initiative, no. Known data sources, yes, there are data sources available, and we will upload that data set with this request. And we'll quickly see if we have any fields are highlighted. For example, you do not have a date, this field is required. So we'll select by next week and take a look at it one more time. And if you're happy, hit submit. Success, we have captured your responses. So for a better user engagement, what we will do is we will go back to the form, and then we will also go back to here and we'll say reload for another entry. So since I have the free version, it's like one entry at a time.